How's it going, YouTube? Today we're going to work on this FA24 motor. We're going to be tearing it down, mostly, not completely. It's not a full tear down. Let's look at the motor, blah, blah, blah. Today we're going to be addressing the RTV silicon problem. I personally think that there is a misconception over the RTV silicon problem. Everyone thinks that the entire problem has to do with the oil pan and that there's too much RTV on the oil pan. I don't think that's true. I think that there's RTV all over the motor, and I think it's breaking off in multiple areas. So we're going to be doing multiple areas. We'll start off with, obviously, the oil pan, but we're also going to take off this timing cover because if you see all around everywhere, there's just so much of this RTV. It's all over. It's spewing out the sides, broken off right at that section up there. It's everywhere. There's more over here. And then on top of that, we've got, I guess, the valve cover, and it's also got just a ton of RTV silicon around it all over the place. So those are the three main target areas I plan to hit on this motor and reapply RTV properly. And we'll kind of see, just how bad the RTV problem is. I suspect it's mostly in the timing cover and valve covers than it is the oil pan. Every video I've seen, when they pull the oil pan out, they go, oh, there's a crap ton of RTV silicon in my pickup. It must be coming from the oil pan. But then if you look closely at their YouTube videos, all the RTV on the lip of the oil pan is usually intact. None of it's actually really come off. And that's why I suspect that it's coming from other areas in the motor. There's one other area that I repeat, I will not be doing, that I have seen. Some people have spotted black RTV silicon. That is because the block will split in half. I believe this is actually the spot where it's going to split in half. And there's black RTV silicon in that area. I will not be splitting my motor in half and going that far in depth. I don't know this motor. I don't even know what it came out of, what the car accident looked like. I'm assuming, of course, it was a car accident. Otherwise, why would they just pull the motor on it? And in my previous video, I talked about how there's a big dent in the oil filter here, and I talked about all the lovely metal shavings that are in the water pump that I found. So that's what we're going to work on today. Right, so first thing we're going to do here is going to pull this guy off. This comes off. So, upwards. Next thing we're going to take off is this guy here. There'll be a couple of bolts. kind of hooks in here. So, cradle it up. Put the foam in there. Heat shielding. So this guy's a 12 millimeter, along with this guy right down here. He's also going to be a 12 millimeter. The rest of these guys are going to be 10 millimeters. Oh, and that guy, he's also a 12 millimeter. Up in 2 pieces. Sit there. Alright, so next we're going to take off the intake manifolds. It should be pretty easy. I'd imagine it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts. There might be a hidden one back down there, same on the other side. And these bolts are a 12 millimeter. See, he's hiding right down there. So that one's very hidden. Gonna have to move this guy over. That is part of your main wiring harness for the ECU. So be careful with them. And there we go. Ooh, tight bugger. Okay, that might be everything for this side. It might honestly only be 3 bolts. Up top, there is a wiring harness here. We're gonna pull this guy on off. Same wiring harness is connected down here, so we're gonna have to pinch this and get this guy to come up. Just like that. So what you do, kind of see, just take it and pinch it as such, and then it comes up and through that hole. The fuel rails here are connected to the intake manifold. So this has 4 fuel injectors. It's got fuel injectors on the intake. It's also got fuel injectors right at the heads as well. So there's actually 4 fuel injectors on, or sorry, 8 fuel injectors on this 4-cylinder motor. All right, now this will let me get this fuel rail out of here, and hopefully I'll be able to get to this harness better. Getting a little bit of fuel to spray there. Kind of shocked. I figured it'd be all done with the fuel here. There we go. And now with these fuel rails able to move and get on out of the way here eventually, one of these days. Come on now. Well, there we go. I'll have to clean up these O-rings here. They got a bunch of dust in them now. Ooh, I'm missing an O-ring. Must be sitting in there. You want to make sure that the O-rings come out with it here. As you can see on the other one, it did not come out. Same on the other side. The one further closer to the firewall did not come out. Maybe they don't have one closer to the firewall, but I doubt that. So you're going to want to make sure the O-rings come out, or at least keep track of them. They're likely still in the hole. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're getting further. We're getting further. So I need to pull this bolt out. Pull this bolt out. Out of here. Now I've got a little bit more room to fish this back into there. I'll just turn it. Okay, so let's do this. Turn it this way. Yeah. Flip this upside down. Yeah. I don't know if you can see, but I'm missing the O-ring on this fuel injector for the intake portion of it. Yeah, this is not a very fun process to get this guy out of here. Actually, kind of a pain. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to try to dip it and flip it, because I don't feel like getting this hose off of here. This is like the PCB or something. Get this guy around all of this, but also around this guy. There's just so much wiring over here that makes this such a pain. this while I'm getting rid of you. There we go. Okay. Now, intake manifold is just about off. Pull this bolt on out over here today, Junior. Over here. Which I don't have any more in there now. No, I don't have any in there either. The next thing we're about to do here, we're going to pull this. Is that a fuel line? Yeah, it's a fuel line. It kind of just clips into the intake here. To pull it around. That lets me get some more movement out of it now. There we go. Last thing I'm going to do, there's a big giant hose in the back of this thing. I'm not even sure what it does. Looks like positive ventilation. This doesn't do anything? Nope. Okay, good. This might be actually positive ventilation. There's a sensor on that. That's neat. I don't really know how to pull this giant. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just kind of work with this, twist it around. Alright, so I am going to call it quits for the night. It's getting a little bit late. I do have a day job. This isn't my life. So I'm going to kind of walk around the motor and show more in detail what I did here to get that intake to the point where it's hanging. The only thing that's holding that intake together right now is this fat hose that I don't really see a way to get off. I've only spent maybe 2 minutes looking at it though before I was like, I'm done. It's out of the way. I don't really care if the hose breaks. We'll get another one. It's not the end of the world. So, what did I do to get this thing off? Well, first thing we did was take off those little fancy, cover things before we got to expose these bolts here. Once we exposed these 3 bolts on each side, you're able to start to lift it, but not quite. We had the fuel rails in the way. Fuel rails placed on this side. Position. Set something like this into the intake here. And they just come up with these 2 bolts. They were 0 issue to get out. The injectors will actually spin around pretty freely. So you can, once you have them unclipped, you can kind of move them. Or even while they're clipped in, you can move them to get them to come out better. Actually, no. No, they're going to need to sit in a fixed place. My bad. The harness is going to tab on. Won't really focus too well. It is going to tab right onto that. So this will have to be, in that position. Once you pull the harness off, then the fuel injector spins around freely. We also wanted to make sure that we got all our O-rings. We did not. So they must be sitting. Actually, I can see it. Put this down. You can see on this one, plastic lip there, but on this one, you can actually see the O-ring sitting in there with all that dirt and dust, whereas that one's super clean. That dirt and dust is sitting on the O-ring. If I put my finger in there, I can feel the rubber. I'll poke it out of there eventually. Similarly on this side, we had some metal pieces sitting here. We took them off, a couple of 10mm, 12mm bolts. And then we exposed our 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. I don't know what that guy was. I forgot. No, that was the 3rd bolt. That's nothing. Get this from falling into my motor. Ooh, valves. You can't see them too well. I can see them. You're going to have to pull this harness off a couple places. I broke off the zip tie for this. I just didn't want to deal with it. You kind of have to reach up into these cracks and crevices. It's actually on that side. And up inside of here is where that plastic piece is. You're not going to be able to get anything up into there. Not easily, at least. So I just ripped that out. Not worried about it. What else did we do here? So other than that, we really just kind of got the harness out of the way. We took off these 3 main bolts. And eventually, a couple other things. The throttle body had to come off. But it's not even really off. I still have it plugged in every way. I just took off the 4 bolts. We took off the fuel line, which connected like into the intake here. It just pops off. I believe that was about all we had to do to get to this point. I'm kind of a slow worker, and it's my first time doing any YouTube, so bear with me here.